So I just saw Let There Be Carnage, and with all this talk of multiverses and alternate characters, I was wondering what would happen if you took the new Sony Venom, portrayed by Tom Hardy, and put him up against the old Sony Venom, portrayed by Topher Grace. Who would win if these two came to blows? At first glance, you might think, well, of course the new Venom would win. I mean, just look at him.
Damn, boy, he's thick! Boy, that's a thick-ass boy! Damn!
But bigger doesn't always necessarily mean better. So in today's video, I want to take an in-depth look at both Venoms, their strengths, weaknesses, unique powers, fighting styles, opponents, all of their scaling, etc., to determine who would win in an epic battle between... Okay. That's the last time I'll play that clip. With that being said, let's begin with the new Venom. Venom is an alien being from the planet Clintar who was brought to Earth on a Life Foundation ship as a part of an infiltration team led by Riot, who would help usher in the full invasion force of the symbiotes. Venom was considered a loser among the symbiotes, and despite his massive size, is actually one of the weakest, if not the weakest symbiote that we know of. He's much smaller than his contemporaries and does not possess the same high-level shape-shifting abilities as Riot or Venom's own offspring, Carnage. Despite this, Venom is able to compete with the other two bulking behemoths due to his symbiotic relationship with Eddie Brock. While symbiotes can attach themselves to any person that they like, they cannot bond with them unless they are a perfect match, which Eddie and Venom are, making them more than capable of fighting more powerful symbiotes on a regular basis, despite the fact that Venom knew that they could not possibly beat Riot or Carnage in a fair fight. While being weaker than most other symbiotes, Venom is still strong enough to compete and even win at the end of the day. Venom, of course, is very powerful, able to toss around cars casually, and again, can take abuse and harm stronger symbiotes like Riot and Carnage, the latter of which is able to lift and toss aside crew cab trucks casually, which on a high end can weigh up to 7,000 pounds. Carnage can lift and crush multiple police vehicles simultaneously, he can barrel through reinforced concrete walls, which Venom can also do, and Carnage was able to bust a high-security holding cell meant to contain Frances Barrison, who with her shriek could shake the massive chapel at the end of the film and begin to break apart pieces of it. So of course, her holding cell would need to withstand the full force of her screams, and Carnage crushes the containment unit with little to no effort. As for durability, Venom is pretty unstoppable unless you're able to take advantage of his two weaknesses, sound and fire. If not, Venom can fight for extended periods of time while attached to his host. Additionally, the stronger the host, the closer to the symbiote's full potential they can reach. As Eddie is a particularly strong host.
Ah, yes! I was wondering what would break first. Your spirit? Oh, your buddy!
Venom benefits from that, able to protect Eddie from all manner of deadly attacks. Venom can regenerate himself and Eddie instantly, provided that Venom has fed enough on brains or chocolate and isn't too tired. In his fight with Carnage, Venom had been unable to eat a proper meal in quite a while, which led to him being exhausted toward the tail end of the fight. But when in proper fighting form, not even the more powerful symbiotes are able to put Venom down permanently. The only course they had to defeat Venom would be to physically rip him from his host and allow him to slowly die or, eat him. As when a symbiote is without a host, they are nowhere near the level of strength or durability that they are with one. So taking Venom's insane regeneration into account, the only way to defeat him is through sound, fire, or again, ripping him from his host and not allowing him to merge with them again. But even his weaknesses are not a guaranteed victory, as Venom has shown that he is able to fight through the pain of sound and flame, protect Eddie, and still survive. So getting into speed a little bit, Venom is very quick, able to dodge and react to bullets consistently, even when he's shot at point-blank range, putting him comfortably within the supersonic speed category, reacting at speeds up to 2,000 miles per hour. As for unique abilities, Venom seemingly has a complete 360-degree line of sight, both around, above, and below him, able to see from any point on his physical form, as he can warn Eddie of things outside of Eddie's line of sight, and it seems that he can even see through his tendrils, as he can use them to go downstairs to get the mail, or make a complicated breakfast using only his tendrils, while his quote-unquote face is still inside of his host. Using his tendrils, Venom can fight multiple assailants at once and create shields, but unlike Riot and Carnage, he cannot create the same powerful slicing and piercing weapons that they can, and he cannot fire his tendrils out as a projectile either. After all, he is a loser. However, he does have very sharp claws and massive teeth, which he can use to deal serious damage. Additionally, Venom seems to have an eidetic memory, able to completely recreate the drawings that Cletus Cassidy had carved into his walls. Venom is also incredibly smart, able to solve the mystery of Cassidy's mad ravings almost immediately, while one of the greatest investigative journalists in the country, Eddie Brock, was stumped. Using this high level of intelligence, Venom is able to come up with unique ways to defeat both Riot and Carnage, despite being weaker than either of them. Venom also has access to billions of experiences due to him being once part of the symbiote hive mind on Clintar, which is a state of existence that the standard human could not begin to fathom. So Venom is extremely powerful. But what about Venom? To tackle that, I've brought in resident Raimi Spider-Man expert Crisis to help break down just how powerful Topher Grace's symbiote is.
Hey everyone, Crisis here. So to summarize Venom Brock Jr. from the Raimiverse, Venom is an alien symbiote finding its way to Earth among numerous meteors, possessing traits of a parasitic organism. It would bind itself to New York City's foremost hero, Spider-Man, amplifying his strength and speed, as well as his narcissistic and selfish emotions.
This is something else.
Thus leading to Spider-Man's hard-fought removal of the substance. This being followed by the symbiote finding its new host in the disheveled and vengeful Eddie Brock Jr. The symbiote would pass on these stored memories and abilities of Peter Parker to Eddie Brock. Venom would be endowed with amplified versions of Spider-Man's abilities, stated to be stronger, faster, and more agile than the Webhead.
Venom basically has similar strengths as Spider-Man, but just stronger, more agile, more vicious.
Which is pretty evident throughout their fight in Spider-Man 3, where Venom is pretty much just having his way with Spider-Man.
If you know what I'm talking about.
So it should be fair to scale Venom above Spider-Man's statistics. Doc Ock's arms, which Spider-Man scales to, were able to rip apart and toss a bank vault door, which was stated to be able to endure point-blank tank rounds in secondary material, with the M1 Abrams possessing a main gun having small building-level attack power. Spider-Man is shown in the first movie tanking a pumpkin bomb to the face, with these bombs prior having skeletonized a crew of 6 people, being calqued to building level. Keep in mind as well that Goblin considered Spider-Man all but invincible, with these bombs and bunker-busting missiles in his arsenal, with Norman having to enact a plan to weaken Spider-Man instead of facing him head-on. Not to mention, Spider-Man could tank multiple overhead strikes from the building-sized Sandman in Spider-Man 3. As stated in Spider-Man 2, both the novel and the film itself, the star that Otto had constructed was pulling on all the metals in New York City and was at risk of absorbing the entirety of the city, with Spider-Man being able to halt a wall being tugged by this fusion reaction and then throwing it. When calculated, this feat of strength comes out to over 300 billion joules, or in power scaling terms, city block level plus.
Okay.
As far as speed is concerned, the characters of the Raimiverse consistently dodge bullets, with Spider-Man, Doc Ock, and Venom having to react to high-caliber gunfire, yielding supersonic reaction times. For Venom's other skills and abilities, he would possess all of Spider-Man's recognizable powers, such as precognition, wall crawling, and web slinging. Being able to craft a parachute, safety nets, fireproof shields, missiles, nets, and tripwires with his webs. The symbiote would as well grant a healing factor, seeing as after being cut by New Goblin's razor bats, Venom immediately reconstitutes itself, with Eddie as well showing no signs of damage after being removed from the symbiote. Venom would also likely possess Spider-Man's willpower-based stat renewal, showcased through Peter's fight with Green Goblin, essentially meaning, if sufficiently motivated, could recover his stats after being honestly outright pummeled. He would, however, possess a weakness to high-frequency sound, with his iconic weakness to extreme temperatures seemingly having been omitted, as the Spider-Man 3 annual guidebook states his only weakness as being sound waves, with his fiery demise likely being possible through his prior successive exposure to sound.
So now that we've discussed the strengths and weaknesses of each combatant, who would win in an all-out brawl? Well, as Crisis mentioned, there is some higher tier scaling for Spider-Man during the events of Spider-Man 2, which outpaces any single feat from Venom, Riot, or Carnage. Using this feat and upscaling Topher's Venom above Spider-Man, he would be over 50 times stronger than Tom's Venom, and in this instance would simply rip Venom from Eddie and the fight would be over right there. But if we use more consistent feats from the Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man films, the two Venoms should be much closer in terms of strength, even if Topher's Venom is a bit stronger, as we've seen Tom's Venom battle stronger symbiotes than himself more than once. So we have a massive brute in Tom's Venom versus a smaller, more versatile Venom from the Raimi trilogy. The biggest advantage for the newest iteration of the character is his experience fighting other symbiotes, his ability to see the entire battlefield at once, as well as his intelligence and symbiotic relationship with his Eddie Brock, while the smaller Venom has the memories, skills, and abilities of Spider-Man, including Spider-Man's precognition and web-slinging abilities. In this scenario, where the two are relative in strength and speed, I think the larger, more intimidating Venom has the best chance to come out on top due to his seemingly higher knowledge and billions of years of shared experience via other symbiotes. He's fought two other, larger, more powerful symbiotes with abilities that far exceed his own and was victorious, while the other symbiote seems to simply be a source of corruption without the shared experience and knowledge of the new Venom. While Eddie Brock Jr. has the memories and skills of Spider-Man, it's not comparable to Venom's experience in his two solo films, not to mention his incredible durability and shape-shifting abilities. I don't see a scenario where the smaller Venom is able to damage the larger one to the point where he'd be able to separate the other from his host, especially considering the emphasis on Eddie and Venom's exceptional symbiotic relationship. So in the end, if you use the higher tier scaling, the Raimi trilogy Venom just absolutely bullies the new Venom, but if you use scaling that's a little bit more consistent, then you have a much closer fight, but I think the newer Venom comes out on top more often than not. Let me know down in the comments who you think wins. Also, thank you so much to Crisis for coming on and helping me out with this video. Be sure to check out his channel. The link for that will be in the description. If you're interested in learning more about how powerful the Raimi Spider-Man is, he will have a video coming out on that very soon, so be sure to subscribe to his channel and be on the lookout for that. With that being said, it's Venom over everything, and I'll see you guys next time.